Most people don't wake up one day and decide to lose control of their lives. It happens quietly. Not in dramatic collapses, but in small daily moments when a comment lingers longer than it should, when frustration sits in the chest for hours, when the mind keeps replaying something that already ended. Nothing looks wrong from the outside, but inside, everything feels heavier than it needs to. I used to think transformation meant changing everything, new routines, new plans, new discipline systems. But over time, I realized something different. Life doesn't usually change because you add more. It changes when you begin seeing things differently and stop reacting to what never truly belonged to you in the first place. That's where Stoicism quietly begins, not as philosophy, not as history, but as a way of standing inside ordinary days, without being pulled apart by them. One of the first ideas Stoicism brings into focus is simple, but uncomfortable. Not everything that disturbs you is actually happening to you. Someone's tone, someone's opinion, someone's delay, silence, or reaction. Most of what drains emotional energy lives outside your control, yet the mind keeps trying to manage it anyway. And that constant attempt to control what isn't yours is what creates the exhaustion people carry without realizing why. The Stoics noticed this long ago. They saw that peace didn't come from forcing the world to cooperate. It came from learning where your responsibility actually ends. When you stop trying to control what belongs to others, something unexpected happens. Your attention comes back to you, your choices, your responses, your direction. And that shift alone begins to feel like relief. Another quiet principle sits just beneath that one. Most emotional reactions are not caused by events, they're caused by the meaning we attach to them. Two people can experience the same situation and walk away feeling completely different. One carries resentment for days, the other lets it pass in minutes. The event didn't decide the outcome, the interpretation did. Stoicism teaches that between what happens and how you respond, there is a space. Small at first, almost invisible, but inside that space is where steadiness lives. Because the moment you realize, you don't have to react instantly, you regain something many people think they lost. Choice. And choice is the beginning of emotional control. There is another misunderstanding many people carry about transformation. They believe it happens through intensity, a burst of motivation, a surge of discipline, a dramatic decision that suddenly changes everything. But real transformation rarely feels dramatic. It feels quiet, subtle, sometimes almost unnoticeable. It looks like pausing instead of escalating, listening instead of defending, letting something go instead of replaying it all night. From the outside, nothing impressive seems to be happening. Inside, however, something powerful is shifting. Your relationship with your own reactions, and once that changes, your days begin to feel different, even if the world around you hasn't changed at all. Stoicism also reminds us of something people often forget. Not every moment deserves your emotional energy. Some situations ask for attention. Others only ask for patience. And many ask for nothing at all, yet we still give them hours of thought. The Stoic approach isn't emotional suppression. It isn't pretending things don't matter. It's learning to recognize what actually deserves your concern, and what only feels urgent because your mind keeps returning to it. When you begin releasing what isn't yours to carry, life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes lighter. And lighter people move through the same world. With far less friction, there's also a deeper layer to Stoic transformation that rarely gets talked about. It isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming less divided inside. Most people feel tension not because life is impossible, but because their reactions constantly pull them in different directions, wanting approval, resisting discomfort, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes that may never happen. Stoicism slowly brings those scattered reactions back together, under one quiet principle. Respond with intention, not impulse. That alone changes the texture of everyday life. Because when reactions become slower, decisions become clearer. And when decisions become clearer, confidence begins to grow, not loudly, but steadily. Over time, something else begins to happen. Situations that once felt overwhelming start to feel manageable, not because they disappeared, but because you are no longer adding unnecessary resistance to them. The Stoics believe that strength doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from meeting life without collapsing under every shift in it. And that kind of strength isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's the ability to hear criticism without losing direction, to face uncertainty without rushing into panic, to experience disappointment without letting it define the next step. That is what emotional steadiness actually looks like. Transformation, in the Stoic sense, doesn't announce itself. You notice it later when something that once disturbed you barely registers, when you move on faster than you used to, when you realize your peace is no longer depending on other people's moods, timelines, or approval. Nothing external changed, but internally, the ground became more stable. And from stable ground, life begins to move differently. If any part of this feels familiar, if you've been carrying more reactions than you want to, thinking longer than necessary about things that already passed, you're not alone in that experience. Most people are never taught how to separate what belongs to them from what doesn't. Stoicism simply gives language to something many people already sense. That steadiness isn't found by controlling life. It's found by learning how to stand inside it without being pulled apart. If this message spoke to something you've been feeling, subscribe and stay with us here. And in the comments, share one moment recently where you chose calm instead of reaction, because sometimes noticing those moments is where quiet change begins.